Hello, I am Eco, the Wandering Love Mystic, and tonight I'm going to start something I was inspired last year in 2021 to do that I'm now getting around to, which is reading a chapter a day from the book that I co-wrote, Ignite Love, which are real life stories of defining love and manifesting more of it in everyday life. Today I'm going to be going through the first chapter of Ignite Love. Let's see. Skip over the introduction part. Legendary Love. Word introduction. So this was a collaborative work that I was honored to be a part of towards the beginning of the pandemic. Over 30 authors were a part of this, and I was one of two non-binary authors that contributed a chapter and a story in here. So the first one is called Peter Giesin and JB Owen, or at least by Peter Giesin and JB Owen. JB Owen is the author or publisher of the Ignite book series. Much love to you, JB. And each of these books, they have a personal empowerment quote, a point to the story, and action steps. So it'll be interesting, and I would love people to go and give reactions, put them in the comments of what you're getting, and if you go and put into action any of the action steps at the end of any of these chapters. We're going to be going through this month forward. So, be legendary in love. Our intention is for the readers to discover that love is their destiny. Love is an adventure. It takes courage and fortitude to find the love that you have always desired. Your experience of love will be different only when you are different. Love takes a willingness to step into the unknowingness. Love yourself and awaken to what matters within you. The story you're about to read is a modern day fairy tale. It is our adventure of finding true love between JB and her husband Peter. Once upon a time, this is how all fairy tales start. Two people looking for love, one lost, the other searching, one in a tower, and the other fighting a dragon. Reminds me of Shrek. Anyways, at the age of 45, I found myself in a unique and unexpected situation, one that I knew would change my life forever. I was proud of myself for attacking the situation head on with the courage of only a devoted and loving father could have. At the same time, I was shaking in my boots at the responsibilities that stood before me, my 8-year-old daughter and my 14-year-old son. I'd just become a single father, provider, and sole caretaker of two precious human beings. Oh, and for stories like this one, where there are two authors, there is denotation between who is speaking, so that is Peter and JB. So I'll let you know when they switch. So continue with Peter. This was a foreign concept to me. It was a belief that marriage and love, which I naively and maybe a bit foolishly considered to be one and the same, would last forever. To me, when two people committed themselves to each other and started a family, this became an eternal vow not to be broken. Why would I think that? My parents have been married for over 45 years, weathering whatever hardships were thrown at them with grace and showed no signs of ending. This new broken paradigm of mine shattered my vision of love like a car windshield struck by a rock. My wife had left me, and I couldn't fathom that could have happened to me. Understanding why, assembling the damage, and especially finding love all had to take a back seat as my priorities shifted away from me towards my two kids. I no longer mattered. My only responsibility was to ensure that they were safe and supported, physically, mentally, and emotionally. My number one concern was that they didn't become a statistic of divorce, that they continued to thrive and prosper, and felt unconditional love. Over the next 4 years, I closed my heart and body to love and slowly receded into the dark caverns of my soul. I told myself it was because my kids needed my undivided attention. In reality, I was lying to myself. I didn't want to put myself out there again just to be hurt. In fact, I'd resolved to be the old man sitting watching TV in my white t-shirt, a TV dinner in front of me, all alone. That seemed way easier than experiencing the heart-shattering pain of losing love. So I simply soldiered on, day after day, letting love become fairy tale, allowing myself to die inside. That part of the part of me that didn't dwindle, however, was a need for adventure. In fact, that desire to experience the world began to grow into an obsession. I took every opportunity I could to travel to new and exciting destinations, try new foods, and expand my horizons. I found this new enthusiasm the perfect way to educate my kids while exploring. I found this new enthusiasm the perfect way to educate my kids while exploring what I wanted from life. This little old man sitting in front of the TV was no longer appealing. JB. At 45 years old, I lay in bed staring up at the ceiling, unable to sleep, listening for even the slightest sound. It had been close to a year of sleepless nights and troubled thoughts, with my senses on high alert, hypervigilant, should he come stumbling back, rattling my door handles, tapping on my window, sitting on my porch and pleading to come home. I had finally cut the cord on my tumultuous and unhealthy rebound relationship. 3 years with a relapsing alcoholic had taken its toll on every fiber of my body, mind, and broken down spirit. Amid the endless exhaustion, frazzled nerves, and constant feelings of being off balance, my self-worth was at an all-time low. The father of my children was disgusted with my frivolous and stupid decision to hook up with my old high school sweetheart, despite knowing he had been a drug addict and alcoholic in previous years. Naively, I thought 8 years sober meant that he was sober going forward. Little did I know that the next drink and the next relapse was only mere fingertips away. My in-laws abhorred my situation and scornfully gave me their opinions each time they came to pick up and drop off their grandkids. My own parents were beyond compassion. They knew him for our younger years. They had seen the screaming matches between us, the endless breakups, his excessive partying and drinking for someone underage. They knew he had a temper and had seen firsthand the marks on me that proved it. My reconnecting with him fell far outside any sympathy or understanding that they could muster. I, of course, forgot all the drama of our high school years and leaped headfirst into a renewed love affair after my marriage ended. Although he was charming and sweet in the beginning, his alcoholic insanity showed up within months and led me down a disastrous trail, far worse than facing any ogres or dragons. I was the fish that jumped from one burning frying pan to the other, only to find the second one worse than the first. Love had taken its toll on me, and I had sworn off men, romance, and anything to do with relationships. I needed a reprieve, a reset, a renewed sense of self. I wanted to escape the town where he knew all my movements, what time I practiced yoga, at what grocery store I shopped at, where and when my son had hockey practice. I deeply desired to take my two kids, aged 8 and 11, away from it all, removing them out of the hell that they had been exposed to. I dreamed of playing on the beach, seeing new sights, and breathing fresh air into our hearts. Hearts that had been hardened by abuse and manipulation. Despite the concerned faces of my friends and frowns of disapproval from the school, I withdrew my children from their classes and set out on a year of uncharted travel to reclaim the happiness that had been lost. This brings our adventurers to the adventure that would change their lives forever. The red thread. Peter, it is 2 a.m. I've been up for over 24 hours. And now I'm supposed to welcome my roommate and her 2 children, none of whom I've met other than via a 15-minute phone conversation and trolling her Facebook page, into an apartment that we would be sharing for the next 30 days. Before they arrive, let me quickly share how this strange meeting came to be. We are both attending this new personal growth immersion experience where 400 people move to a new city for 30 days and teach, learn, and explore cutting-edge personal growth techniques. There's an interesting idea. I had rented a small, quaint 3-bedroom apartment in central Barcelona, Spain. Several months before the event took place, I received a message from the owner that he had to cancel my booking. Oh crap. In perfect Peter fashion, I sprang into action. Options were limited, and I finally located a 6-bed apartment for double the cost. Having no other choice, I booked it, resigned to the notion of eating the extra cost. I woke up with buyer's remorse and almost canceled the entire trip. I recalled reading on the event's Facebook page that other people were seeking roommates. My introverted self, shaking with knots in my stomach, posted the following message. Hi, gang! I managed to find a cute little apartment in downtown Barcelona, about 1 kilometer from the event location. It has 1 double bed and 4 single beds spread across 4 different rooms. I only need 3 beds for myself, my 17-year-old son, and 12-year-old daughter. We'll be arriving May 26th and heading back to the US on June 20th. I'll be happy to share the 3 extra beds. PM if you're interested. In less than an hour, I received a response from JB Owen. Turns out that JB had been traveling the world with her 2 children for the past 9 months doing charity work. She sounded extremely nice. Her kids were of a similar age of mine. She was attending the same seminar as we were, and she seemed normal enough, according to her Facebook page. I told myself, what could possibly go wrong? With a bit of trepidation, dipped in optimism, we chatted via Messenger and agreed to be roommates. My insides started to tremble a bit at the idea of meeting a new woman, especially one as beautiful and worldly as JB seemed to be. It had been 3 years since I had any feelings for a woman. I longed for the idea of being connected to someone both emotionally and physically. Exploring life by myself was boring and many times heart-wrenching. I often missed those feelings of being committed to another person. But I did not want a relationship of any sorts. I didn't want the pain that I associated with love, so I immediately and emphatically shut those feelings down. Buzz, buzz. The loud ringer from the entrance signaled that JB and her kids were here. Given the late and ungodly hour, I leaned over and looked down from the balcony. I saw this beautiful woman with bleach blonde hair, clad in shimmering rhinestones, as if she just walked out of a nightclub. Beside her stood at least a dozen suitcases, and I thought to myself, they only have 2 small bedrooms. Where are they going to put all of that stuff? I made my way groggily down the 4 flights of stairs to greet them. Having been traveling all year, they seemed to have developed a system. I stood there quietly and left it to them. Not very gentlemanly, I know, but I was a bit overwhelmed with the intensity, especially at 2 a.m. I did not in that moment actually see the red thread winding itself around me as JB walked into the apartment. I did feel a strange tingling sensation flow through my body as she brushed against me while heading to her room. Every part of me asked myself what the hell was happening. I wanted to know immediately I wanted to immediately yank the door open and run. In fact, the next morning, I left with my two kids before anyone else was out of bed. I didn't want to see JB. More importantly, I didn't want to explore those feelings that had unexpectedly arisen in me. Over to JB. Be on your best behavior, I told my kids as we pulled up into a charming stone building deposited in the center of a walled-in row of apartments, smack dab in the coolest and most eclectic part of Barcelona. Despite our 2 a.m. arrival, the street lights were bright and the headlights from the Uber dramatically illuminated decorative facades. My kids and I had taken a late night flight from the island of Isba directly into a large and historic city filled with modern gaudy architecture. Despite being after midnight, the three of us were eager to meet the single dad from New Jersey and his two teenagers whom we would be sharing an apartment with for the next 30 days. A month back, while world schooling with my children, I decided to attend an alternative program devoted to people advancing their personal growth. I've been part of this self-help community for many years, and this is the first time we'd be all getting together and living in one city for a month. Since leaving Canada 9 months before, I had been seeking new ways of living off the beaten path. My kids and I had been spending a month at a time in a new country doing charity work. This month was Spain and a chance to meet other families committed to advancing their education and self-development. Originally, I had rented a flat for just the three of us, but a water leak in the apartment left us scrambling to find a place on short notice. Desperate for suggestions, I went to the Facebook group for the event and saw the rooming board a dad and his two kids had a large apartment with 3 extra beds. Having spent the last 9 months on casitas, on couches in Airbnbs, and even spending weeks in a treehouse where we slept mattered little to us. Our year-long adventure was destined to break down our old life and go with the flow, jump at possibilities, and welcome something new. At times, I joked with friends in emails that I was going to Spain to live with my new boyfriend. I just hadn't met him yet. I teased that I had agreed to cohabitate with a single dad and anything could happen. I made light of it, but deep inside, I knew nothing would come of it. I was going on 2 years of a self-imposed celibacy and had made a private commitment that I would not let any man derail my precious time with my kids. Our trip was for us to heal, reconnect, and find a laughter in our hearts again. I did not want them distrusting me or being put aside for budding new romance. I owed them my undivided attention and devotion. Saying yes to sharing an apartment was mostly about reducing my rent costs and minimizing the potential of other guys hitting on me. When Peter came to open the door, sleepy-eyed and shy, I felt a wave of relief that the red thread had remained untangled and he would not be a distraction to my staying single plan. He was quiet and a bit sheepish compared to the loud outspokenness of both me and my kids. He stood a bit shell-shocked as my son and I rattled our numerous suitcases across the cobblestone street, oblivious to the sound reverberating through the stillness of the night. We clanged open the steel gate of our tiny elevator and noisily stacked our suitcases inside, 3 high. We laughed loudly as we maneuvered them to the top of each other, then bickered as my 9-year-old complained about walking up the 4 flights of stairs because the elevator was too small. It took my son 4 tries to Sam close the elevator door and ascend upward. Anyone trying to sleep would have found it difficult. With Peter out of hearing distance, my son turned to me in a tiny lift and said, "Sorry, Mom, I don't think he's your guy." A moment. Back to Peter. One would think that might have been my ignite moment when Cupid shot his arrow and I fell madly in love with JB. It is partly right. And in each of these chapters, there is what is known as an ignite moment of what ignited love in that author. Let's see. I think Cupid did fire the arrow, shooting straight and true. However, with over 3 years of close heart, the arrow simply grazed the surface. Little did I know that even that tiny nick was enough. I just needed time to find the love I was looking for. The next 30 days were full of new people, new experiences, and new dreams. JB and I lived as roommates, friends, and fellow attendees, co-parenting our kids and interacting socially when the opportunity arose. I had to be clear that there was no romantic relationship, nor even an emotional attachment. She gracefully did her thing, and I happily did mine. We walked together to the event, shared groceries, took turns watching the kids. We'd visit over tea in the morning or chat while doing the dishes at night. But she had her circle, and I was enjoying forming mine. JB had been part of this community for over 5 years. She was a social butterfly and the belle of the ball. She knew everyone and wasn't afraid to show it. As a newbie and with limited belief that I was an introvert, I kept to myself and rarely interacted with more than 1 or 2 people per day. JB being one of those people due to our living arrangements. Even though I felt that she was well out of my league, I used our situation as an opportunity to learn and explore this new world of personal transformation. Unbeknownst to me, this was Cupid's magic working from the inside out. Over the month in Barcelona, JB became the role model that I wanted to follow in my life. She was positive when I was negative. She was fun where I was boring. She was inspirational compared to my pessimism. I began to learn from her and see possibilities that hadn't existed before. Even when the event was almost over, JB suggested that I extend our trip by 8 days and go to Rome with her. I jumped at the opportunity. Some one-on-one time with her to process everything I had heard and experienced was exactly what I needed. It was like going to the mountain with Mohammed. I knew I would leave this experience a changed man, and I was not wrong. Every day, we talked about life, past experiences we had, mainly hers, our dreams and aspirations, and the changes one needs to make so we can manifest our reality. I was enamored with her presence and confidence that she had to be her own person and live outside of the norm. A week later, with a bit of longing, we parted ways. I didn't want the learning to end, nor did I want to think about not seeing JB every day. Our time together had become special, something I looked forward to and deeply enjoyed. We spent every waking moment together exploring Rome, talking nonstop about business, travel, life, and even past love. Looking back, I realized that our connection was moving beyond that of just roommates. But at the time, I was clueless and simply let it slide by. With quaint goodbyes and a small peck on the cheek, I returned back to the world from which I had taken this fairy tale adventure. I never expected to see or hear from her again. I only hoped that I had learned enough to continue the transformation on my own. Much to my surprise, JB and I continued our talk every day. The conversation easily shifted from business, meditation, and personal fitness to what each of us was doing, how the kids were, how we missed each other. It shouldn't have been a surprise that shortly after JB returned home, I found myself on an airplane headed to help her unpack as she had just moved back home into a new house. I laugh now when remembering how little unpacking happened during my stay. This was the first time that since we had met that it was just JB and I. We cycled, we juiced, we talked. For the first time, romance entered the picture. Cupid's magic was in full bloom. The universe, unfortunately, had a different idea. Often it does. Sensing my trepidation, it decided to put me to the test. The day after JB and I were intimate for the first time, I timidly walked into her office to share that I needed to leave immediately due to a death in the family. I took the bait the universe had laid out, not even considering JB's feelings. I had her drop me off at the airport a couple of hours later. My heart slid shut with a clang as the voice in my head said, "This wouldn't work. We live 3,000 miles apart. I don't want a long distance relationship. I don't want to be on an airplane every couple of weeks. I don't want to hurt her. I don't want to be hurt again." With those feelings pounding in my chest, I departed with no hope of pursuing what might have been. I spent the next 3 days with my family, grieving. Not over the loss of my aunt, but once again over the loss of love, short-lived as it was. The red thread was frayed and near breaking. I didn't have the courage to even call JB. It's much easier to let the scab heal over and go back to my old existence. The good news, however, was that JB, in true form and connected to the universe much more than I was, decided not to give up so easily. A few days later, she boldly picked up the phone. She shared her condolences, exchanged some niceties, then she let go with her full power. Not sure why you don't trust the universe? I think that there is more in play than just a long distance romance. We don't know what's in store for us, but shouldn't we at least give it a try? It's up to us to make this work. What do you truly want, Peter? I knew at that moment that this was the woman, the connection, the commitment to love that I had dreamed of my whole life. This was the devotion and conviction I had witnessed between my parents for the last 50 years. I said, I've been a fool. I'll do whatever it takes to make this work. I want us to do more than just love one another. I want to be legendary in love. Beautiful vision. Going back to JB. I'm not sure why I said it. It just felt normal and right. A few nights before our month together was about to end, I asked Peter, why don't you extend your trip and come to Rome? I was continuing my year of travel with a few more months left before the kids and I would go back to Canada and live closer to my mother. Peter nonchalantly said yes, and while the others at the event said goodbye, the six of us playfully whisked off to continue our adventure. Eating the world's best pizza, taking pictures at the Trevi Fountain, and standing extra close in line at the Vatican sparked a few feelings in me that I had tried to push down. Life was becoming calmer with Peter. His gentle demeanor, loving support, and wit with directions brought an ease to our travels and more fun to our exploring. Our kids got along famously, freeing Peter and I for long bouts of conversation and lingering time to philosophize. And for some wonderful reason, he just loved it when I talked, and he always listened intently. I admit that I started to have feelings one night over carpaccio and wine. The kids were in the hotel room, tuckered from a long day of cannonballs in the pool, and for a brief, delightful dinner. Peter made me feel like a woman, not a mom. We eventually parted and he returned to the United States, yet our communication continued. We spoke almost every day, and debates about theories and ideas shifted to sharing family events, what the kids were up to, and plans for the future. When I returned to Canada after 12 months of traveling, I found it challenging to reintegrate. Even though I moved back to my hometown to be close to my mom, I didn't know anyone. Conversing with Peter became my lifeline as I picked away at unpacking boxes. I felt bored and lonely, as my kids had gone and spent the last bit of summer with their father. Peter and my constant chats were the best part of my day. To my surprise, Peter offered to fly to Canada and help me unpack my boxes. I was thrilled when he was coming, elated for the help, yet nervous he would see me in my home, somewhat more vulnerable than I had been before. It felt intimate and personal, something that we had not had to deal with in our cute little apartment or Airbnbs. His arrival was wonderful, and without skipping a beat, we fell into a domesticated rhythm of running, cooking, taking long walks, and sitting side by side while working on our computers. Peter is the kindest and most adoring person that I'd ever known, and when I found him snoozing on the couch one night, my heart melted to his presence in my life. I knew that he had become my best friend, and everything that we did was a fit. For the first time in years, I wanted to be held, loved, and honored by him. After spending so much time with Peter, falling into the depths of his arms came easily, letting down my walls and shedding my hard coating with both magical and amazing. The next day, with butterflies of intimacy still fluttering in my stomach, Peter announced he had to leave. There was a death in his family and he had to fly home immediately. Graciously, I agreed, but once he walked away to go pack his suitcase, the tears poured down my cheeks. How cruel of a joke the universe had played on me. I had resisted feeling any emotions for so long, and the day after I gave in, he had to leave and our private time together was over. But the red thread of connection had been intertwined between us, and despite his lack of communication after he returned to the US, my mind and heart were invested. I knew it was no coincidence that he had rented that big apartment. I had lost mine, that all the people on Facebook, we saw each other's posts. The chances of him traveling alone with kids and me traveling with mine at the same event, extending our vacations, staying connected, and finding our way back to one another across 2 countries proved it was something extraordinary. Days later, when we finally spoke, his demeanor had changed. His energy was different. Sadly, his reality, practicality, and sensibility had crept in. I think we should just be friends. I respect you too much to hurt you. Our kids' feelings are a factor, and I don't want a casual connection. I'm not one to hurt anyone. I'm not one to hurt one another over long distance. You live 3,000 miles away. I'm sorry, I can't see it working out. My kids like to say that Peter friend-zoned me that day. I like to say he put me in a box reserved for other people, not us. Not the 2 amazing people who found each other halfway around the world and spent blissful time getting to know one another, void of pretenses and artificial behavior. Compassionate to his fears, I told Peter that we are the lucky ones and we need to trust the masters had masterfully conspired to bring us together against all odds, and we are foolish to believe that they will not provide a perfect solution for our future. Despite both of our inability at the time to see the how standing behind fostering our love, I simply asked him, why would he want to be just friends when he could have so much more? Great question. Happy ever after. Going back to Peter. 3 weeks later, I locked the door of my house and unlocked my heart. I head to the airport with my 2 kids and our 6 suitcases for a tester semester in Canada. JB and I had decided to listen to our intuition and trust that we were both worth it. I stepped off my porch with nothing but courage and the confidence that this was the woman of my destiny. I felt her feminine power from across the continent, awakening my masculine from his deep slumber. I was ready for true love and wanted to do whatever it required to honor the feelings we shared. I knew from the depths of my soul that this was exactly what the universe had planned, and I was all in. For a time, I had felt that love was nothing more than a fairy tale dream. I believed that anyone who said that they were in love was crazy and kidding themselves. Love was just a figment of their imagination. I was completely and wholeheartedly wrong in my thinking. I realized the true meaning of love, that 2 people can connect so deeply, surpassing the realms of logic, and create the reality that they desire. Love is more than just a word. It's more than just a simple emotion shared among lovers. It is our ultimate destiny to love another and experience true bliss in our lives. That semester turned into 2, then a year, and happily continues to this day. On our wedding night, I confidently told JB, I will do everything in my power to have you fall in love with me every day. I learned that that is what true love takes. It doesn't just happen. Each person in their relationship has to show up every day, first for themselves, then for their partner. I do my best to hold myself to this promise. If you do the same, you will find love and devotion in your relationship you didn't even know existed. Back to JB. While in Barcelona, I celebrated my 47th birthday. I remember the feeling of deepest love I had ever known, the love I felt for myself, and the beautiful life I had created with my kids. I decided that if I was going to be alone for the rest of my life, that I was okay with it. If what I had was all I was going to get, I was thankful. I felt a massive amount of love for my kids, my family, and my friends. I was living life on my terms, and for the first time, a true sense of contentment settled into my being. I was no longer searching for love, and when I stopped trying to find it, it ever so sweetly found me. Standing at the airport waiting for Peter, Jorah, and Jackson to arrive, I shifted from one foot to the other, not because I was nervous, but because I was excited. I told Peter he and his kids were a package deal, and loving him meant loving them also. Very true, dating anyone with kids. Kids come as a package deal. My heart had blossomed during the time with them, expanding past the limits of loving one person and growing into loving three. My deepest hurt had led me to find my greatest love, one I always believed was possible, but which had eluded me until I took the time to stop searching and start loving myself. I realized that when we look outside of ourselves for love, we don't see the greatest love there is, the one within ourselves. When we bask in that kind of love, we allow ourselves to love another more completely, succinctly, and profoundly. We see past the ideas and beliefs around love, and we touch the very core of another's existence. We go beyond the thought of love and swim freely in the effortless bliss of one person's deep acceptance and affection for the other. Finding love is yours to discover. You can travel the world or you can find it right at home. Regardless of where you go, deep, unabashed love begins in you and then radiates outward. Look within and you will find what you are looking for. Be one to say yes when your head says no. Don't settle when you can have so much more. Take chances and trust that the masters are always working diligently for you. Most of all, when you find the right and special person, promise to be legendary in love. Epilogue. The next year, Peter and I took all the kids and traveled to Tallinn, Estonia to attend the same personal development event where we had met, this time happening in a new location. For 30 days, all 6 of us immersed ourselves in top training on personal psychology, biohacking, and self-development and mindset. It was fantastic to see all the people we have met the year before in Barcelona and to witness their faces when they had found Peter and I had kindled a relationship together. Many knew we were roommates the year before, but not all knew Peter had packed up his life and moved to Canada, where we were blissfully living as one blended family. Those who knew us well were delighted that we had fallen in love. Those who heard our story were inspired by the notion that one never knows when your perfect person is right around the corner, and how powerful it can be to say yes to love. We became the beacon of hope for many, proving that you don't have to know how, you just have to believe that it is possible. In full fairy tale fashion, Peter and I married each other that summer in Tallinn. He was dashing in his full wedding attire. I wore a sparkling pink dress fit for a princess with a blush-colored crown and delicate pink slippers like shoes on my feet. I couldn't have been more romantic. It couldn't have been more romantic or perfect. In front of 800 people, the girls and I rode an open horse carriage into the main cobblestone square at the center of the city. Peter and I said our vows standing on the steps of a beautiful 800-year-old church, where all of our friends could witness our pledge of lifelong commitment to one another. Tears of joy overflowed. Cheers of celebration erupted, and when it was over, Peter and I descended into a crowd where our guests, all holding hands, surrounded us and formed one enormous group hug. Hundreds of people took part in that hug, squeezing the person next to them, coming closer to the center, moving inward so that every single one of them felt embraced and loved. It is hard to describe the elation I felt from marrying the man of my dreams with my magnificent children at my side, while being hugged joyously by hundreds of people all at once. If I put it into words, I would say it was love in its truest, most divine form. It was the pinnacle of what love is, a treasured moment where everyone felt love, willingly gave love, became love. That day was an ignite moment for many. Others saw the power of love being possible. Peter and I saw the power behind inspiring love in as many people as we possibly can. This book and the Ignite Company was born from the embers of that day. Together, we have made it our mission to ignite others and impact humanity in dreams, possibilities, and love. We want every person on the planet to feel love in the deepest level and to know love as intimately as they can. We believe sharing stories about love will do exactly that. Love will heal the world. Through love, anything and everything is possible for every one of us. Ignite action steps. Each chapter has steps. Commit to putting in the work of relationship development. Having an exceptional relationship will not happen without work. Set an intention, then sign up for a personal development conference, read a new book, listen to a podcast, even seek out therapy. The bottom line, when you have things in your life that you want to get better at, know that it will take work and time to get closer to your goals. It's not often that we think about relationships in this manner. Doing so will help remove any barriers that will keep us from having the relationships that we want and desire. Come back to what's best for your relationship. How you should be in a relationship is normally learned from the experiences of other people, i.e., parents, friends, even celebrities, or society itself. They aren't in your relationship. You are. Resist the trap of comparing what you have with what others have. Keep coming back to what serves you and your partner best. Check in on your relationship regularly. Set the intention to take your relationship to the next level. Then continually check in with it. Ask yourself if you're supporting your partner in the way that they need. Set a reminder in your calendar to touch base and check that you're both on the same page. Making minor corrections now before they become full-blown issues will go a long way to ensuring your relationship is on track. Giving your relationship your full attention is how love grows. You know what you need, so be sure to give the same attention and devotion to your partner. What you give, you get, so give full out. Yay. Complete the first chapter. So I'm looking forward to going through the other chapters and also sharing a bit of my own stories along the way. We'll eventually get to my chapter in here. We're going to do them in order. So one of the things that this chapter brings up for me is one of the things that I've learned is that for being able to let in the love of another, it requires me to be able to actually love myself to that level and depth first. Otherwise, if someone else is pouring love onto me, if I'm already at capacity, it's like trying to fill an already full teacup. It just flows out and I don't feel any more loved or cared about. I get to do my inner work to go and love myself more, to allow more love into my life so I can feel more loved, more cherished, more adored, and open my heart even wider. And for creating space, I'll give you a process that a wise mentor of mine, Lawrence Lanoff, taught me last summer. And first, just notice. You win by noticing. Good job. Second, taking a deep breath and relax your asshole, because a lot of us just have uptight assholes. Let that energy flow. And finally, spread your legs, physically or metaphorically, making even more space. And I really like that in the first action step is the commit to putting in the relationship, putting in the work of relationship development. Because the being able to actually continually improve oneself and continuing to move along your own path is one of the best ways to that I found for being able to have healthy relationships with others. Because first, I need to have healthy relationship with myself first and foremost. Because regardless of anyone else being a part of my life or not, the only person that is guaranteed to be with me for as long as I live is myself. Others may have intentions of being with me for as long as they live, or I may form an intention of being with someone else for as long as they live. I've been married and divorced, so I know that that doesn't always work. People who I thought would be in my life have drifted out, and vice versa. And that is part of life, and that is okay. So thank you for being a part of this, and I look forward to being able to read you a chapter a day from Ignite Love and through this month, and we will go and get through this book. And I would love to have you make some comments of what came up for you in hearing the story or your action steps. And I look forward to the conversation that we'll have as these stories happen. Bye for now.